Imagine the silence. Not the silence of peace, but that heavy silence that lingers in the house after the boxes have been removed, after the door has slammed shut for the last time, and after the ink has dried on that letterhead that cost you months of sleep and thousands of dollars in legal fees, the divorce decree. You're sitting in the living room, the same room where you planned your future, where you discussed the color of the walls, where perhaps your children took their first steps. Now this room is yours alone, or at least that's what the paper says. The judge banged the gavel. The sentence was clear. Property goes to spouse A. You take a deep breath. It's over. The emotional battle is over. You won the house. But while you're sitting there, feeling this false relief, a letter is being automatically printed on a bank server thousands of miles away. It's a discreet envelope, perhaps with a red border or just the word urgent stamped in bold. This letter doesn't care what the judge said. This letter doesn't care who betrayed whom or who got custody of the children. This letter carries the only truth that matters in the American capitalist system. Your name is still on the promissory note. And the foreclosure nightmare isn't over. It's just begun, and this time the enemy isn't your ex-spouse anymore. It's a trillion-dollar institution that wants its money back, no matter the cost. Most people watching this video right now believe a dangerous lie. The lie that family law supersedes contract law. You think that because a family court judge wrote in a court order that your ex is responsible for mortgage payments, the bank will simply agree and nod. This is where lives are destroyed. This is where credit scores of 800 points drop to 500 in a matter of months. Before I show you how the bank will completely ignore your divorce decree, I need you to do something now. Look at the subscribe button. If you want to protect your assets against the pitfalls that lawyers forget to mention, click it. We are building a knowledge trench against financial ruin here. And if you've ever felt the panic of opening a letter from the bank, leave your like now. Let's show the algorithm that this is no joke. Let's analyze the case of Mike. Mike is a smart, hard-working guy. In the divorce, he gave his retirement account to his ex-wife in exchange for keeping the house. It seemed fair. His lawyer said, "Great, we'll put in the deed that you assume the house and payments starting today." Mike continued paying, but there was a problem. His ex-wife's name was still on the original mortgage. And worse, in many reverse cases, and perhaps this is yours, you may be the one who left the house, but your name remains stuck on the debt because your ex promised to refinance soon. The concept that will keep you up at night is called joint and several liability. D. When you, happily married, signed that mountain of papers closing the house purchase, you agreed to a tiny clause. That clause tells the bank that each of you is 100% responsible for the total debt, not 50-50. If your ex stops paying their share, the bank won't collect their half. The bank will come after you for the entire debt. Here's the brutality of the situation. The family court judge has power over you and your ex. He can determine who sleeps in the house, who pays the electricity bill, but the family court judge has no jurisdiction over the bank. The bank was not a party to your divorce proceedings. The contract you signed with the bank, the promissory note, is a federally regulated and private document. The divorce decree does not invalidate the promissory note. To the bank, your divorce is irrelevant. It's just a personal drama that doesn't alter the contract. So, back to Mike. If he tries to refinance the house to remove his ex's name from the mortgage, he hits his first hurdle, current interest rates. Maybe you bought the house with 3% interest. Today, refinancing pushes that to 7% or 8%. The monthly payment doubles. Mike can't get the refinancing approved on his own with his sole income. The bank denies it. What happens? His ex's name remains on the mortgage. Now reverse the scenario. Imagine you moved out of the house. Your ex stayed. The judge said he must refinance in 6 months. He doesn't refinance. He loses his job. He stops paying the mortgage. The bank doesn't call him. The bank calls you. And when the foreclosure process begins, it hits your credit with the force of a freight train. Comment below, what is your current situation? Are you the one who stayed in the house trying to pay, or are you the hostage who left the house and has your name stuck in your ex's debt? I read all the comments and want to know where the pain is greater. This exchange of information in the comments can save someone who is reading this now. The trap is set. You have a legal document, the divorce, that says one thing, and a financial document, the mortgage, that says the opposite. It's the divorce lawyer versus refinance mortgage conflict. Your divorce lawyer did his job. He separated the marriage, but he often doesn't understand banking mathematics. He wrote clauses that are impossible to fulfill in today's economic market. He wrote must refinance, but ignored the fact that the bank can simply say no. And it's with this no from the bank that the real nightmare begins. Because when refinancing is denied, you enter a legal limbo. You can't sell without the ex-husband's signature, if he's still on the title deed, and you can't pay the mortgage alone. The bank smells blood in the water. They know that homes in divorce situations are the first to suffer default, and they have no patience. The first late payment notice arrives, then the second, the phone starts ringing. And suddenly, that house you fought so hard to win in court starts to look less like a prize and more like an anchor dragging you to the bottom of the ocean. And the worst part, your ex-spouse, who may be hurt, vengeful, or simply broken, holds the key to saving you, or sinking you completely. But they don't answer your calls. Right now, you need to understand that the war has changed. It's no longer about who gets custody of the dog. It's about asset survival. There are only two ways out: force the bank's hand or force the ex-spouse's hand, and both options will be expensive and require nerves of steel. If you think what I've described so far is bad, wait until you understand what a poorly executed quitclaim deed is and how it can cause you to lose ownership of your house but continue to be responsible for the debt. Yes, it's possible to give the house to your ex and still have to pay for it when the bank takes it. It's the perfect trap. Do you remember that moment in the lawyer's office? The mahogany desk, the humming air conditioner, and that stack of papers that looked like a phone book. Your lawyer pushed a specific sheet toward you and said, in that calm, professional voice, "Sign here. This is the quitclaim deed. It's just to transfer the deed to your ex-spouse's name, as per the agreement." You signed. Your hand trembled slightly, but you signed. You thought, free. I'm finally free of this house and this debt. Oh, poor naive soul. At that exact second, when you put ink on that paper, you may have made the biggest financial mistake of your life. You just entered the deepest circle of real estate hell, and I'm going to explain why. But first, I need you to take a deep breath, because what I'm about to say will make your stomach churn if you've ever been through this. A quitclaim deed transfers only one thing: the title. It transfers your right to live there, your right to sell the house, your right to say you own it, but it does not transfer the mortgage. The bank didn't sign that paper. The bank didn't agree to anything. So, look at the horrible position you voluntarily put yourself in. You gave up the asset but kept the liability. You have 100% responsibility for paying for a house where you no longer even have the right to step on the lawn. Now imagine the scenario. It's Friday night. You receive an alert on your cell phone from your credit monitoring app. Your heart races, you open it. Your score has dropped 80 points at once. Late payment, 30 days. Your blood runs cold. You call your ex-spouse. Why didn't you pay the mortgage? You kept the house. And on the other end, you hear only a lame excuse, or worse, a vengeful silence. He didn't pay because he lost his job, or maybe he didn't pay on purpose to hurt you. You panic. You think, I'll sell the house to pay off the debt and clear my name. But wait, you can't. Remember that paper you signed? The house is no longer yours. You can't list the property for sale. You can't force the sale without a new expensive court order. You're handcuffed to a sinking ship, and you threw the key to the handcuffs overboard when you signed the deed. The bank will come after you to collect every penny, and you don't have the property to offer as collateral. This is what we call a mortgage zombie, a living dead debt that haunts you. If this sounds terrifying, it's because it is. And divorce lawyers, in their haste to close the deal and secure their fees, often forget to emphasize this risk. They put in the agreement, spouse B must refinance the house within 90 days. Nice wording, but paper doesn't pay the bills. Before we move on to the insurmountable barrier of interest rates, I want to ask our community a serious question. Comment below. Regret if you've ever signed a financial document under emotional pressure without understanding the consequences, or free if you manage to escape that trap. I want to see how many survivors we have here. And if you're learning something new that could save your skin, smash that like button. This helps the video reach someone who's about to sign a quitclaim deed right now and needs to be warned. Now, let's talk about the refinancing promise. Your ex swore they would refinance. The judge ordered it, but the math is cold and cruel. When you bought that house, maybe in 2020 or 2021, interest rates were rock bottom, 2.5%, 3%. It was practically free money. The payment was $1,500. Today, try refinancing. Rates have exploded to 7%, 8%. If your ex tries to take out a new loan to clear your name, the payment on that same house will no longer be $1,500. It will jump to $2,800 or $3,000. And here's the catch-22, the dead end. To clear your name, the bank requires your ex to prove they can pay the payment alone, without their rent, and with the new interest, double the amount. The chance of this being approved? Minimal. Most American families need 2 incomes to support a household. On your own, your ex is rejected by the bank. The refinancing request is denied. Now what? The divorce decree says you have to refinance, but the bank says we're not going to refinance. Now what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing changes. Your name is still there, and you remain a hostage. There's a grim term in financial psychology called kamikaze divorce. It's when one spouse is so filled with hatred that they're willing to destroy their own credit, just to make sure the other's credit is destroyed too. They deliberately stop paying the mortgage. They know that if the house goes to auction, they lose their place to live. But they don't care, as long as they see you suffer the collection calls and public humiliation. You try to argue with the bank, but I'm divorced. Look at the decree here. The bank manager, if he has the decency to attend to you, will look over his glasses and say, "Sir, madam, we lent you money. The divorce is your problem. The contract says that if you don't pay, we take the house." And they do. But the foreclosure process isn't quick. It's a slow torture. Months of threatening letters, legal fees being added to your debt, yes, you pay for the bank's lawyers who are suing you, and anxiety corroding your mental health. You start receiving strange mail. Real estate investors discover you're in pre-foreclosure. They start calling you offering pennies on the dollar. Neighbors start giving you strange looks because they saw someone taking pictures of your house's facade. The nightmare has jumped off the drawing board and onto your street. And you think, at least I have the equity, the net value of the house. If we sell, there will be money left over, right? Wrong. Maybe nothing will be left over. Because between bank penalties, late payment costs, the bank's lawyer fees, and the devaluation from forced sale, that profit you thought you had could evaporate before the check even reaches your hand. But there's a moment, a tipping point, where fear transforms into action. It's when the official notice of default letter arrives and the clock starts ticking down to the auction. Tick-tock, 90 days, 60 days. This is where the battle stops being about numbers and becomes a dirty war of desperate strategies. Are there ways to paralyze the bank? Are there loopholes in the law that even your divorce lawyer doesn't know about? but that a foreclosure lawyer would use like a nuclear weapon? Yes, there are, but they require courage. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, you're missing out on the best tools in this battle. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. Don't let the bank win through exhaustion. In the next chapter of this saga, we're going into the courtroom, but not the family court. We're going to see what happens when you try to use bankruptcy as an emergency shield to stop the auction in the last 24 hours. It's a risky, expensive maneuver, and it could save your house, or put you on the financial blacklist for 10 years. You wake up on a grey Tuesday to a sound you'll never forget, the sound of duct tape being ripped on your front door. It's not the mailman. It's not an Amazon delivery. You peek out the window and see a strange man walking away from your lawn, clipboard in hand. He doesn't even look back. You open the door and there it is, taped to the painted wood of your driveway, humiliating you for the whole neighborhood to see, the notice of trustee sale. Blood drains from his face, his knees buckle. There, in black and white, is a date. Let's say November 4th at 10 a.m. on the steps of the county courthouse. His house, his sanctuary, the stage for his family's memories, the asset that should have been his retirement, now has a death date marked on it. 21 days to go. The clock, which once ticked away, now sounds like a time bomb hammering in his head. At this point, the war between divorce lawyer and refinance mortgage becomes irrelevant. Your divorce lawyer, the one who charged you $5,000 up front, answers the phone and says, "I'm sorry, but this is outside my area of expertise. I handle custody and alimony, not foreclosure." The bank? The bank doesn't even answer anymore. Your account manager has been replaced by a department called loss mitigation, which is just a corporate euphemism for asset seizure department. You're on your own. This is where the nuclear option comes in. The only thing in the American legal system powerful enough to stop a scheduled auction, freeze the bank, and silence creditors instantly. Chapter 13. Bankruptcy. But before I explain how this tool works, I need you to stop everything. Look at the screen. If you know someone, a friend, a cousin, a co-worker, who's going through a difficult divorce, share this video with them now. Not tomorrow. Now. You might be giving them the only piece of information that will prevent them from living in their car next month. And if you're enjoying this immersion into the brutal reality of finance, make sure you're subscribed. YouTube hides this kind of content because the truth is scary. Help us break through the bubble. Back to the abyss. You run to a new lawyer, a bankruptcy lawyer. His office is different. Less mahogany, more stacks of cheap paper. He looks at the auction notice and says, "We can stop this, but it's going to be expensive and it's going to hurt." The magic concept is called automatic stay. The second you file for federal bankruptcy, a stop-everything order is issued. It's like pulling the emergency brake on a train going 200 km/h. The auction scheduled for the 4th? Cancelled. Collection calls? Illegal. Lawsuits? Frozen. Even your divorce proceedings in family court can be temporarily halted. The automatic stay is so powerful that if the bank sells your house 1 minute after you file, the sale is null and void and the bank can be fined. You feel an immediate sense of relief. I'm saved, you think, but that's when the intrigue deepens and the nightmare takes on a new layer of complexity. Because Chapter 13 isn't a debt forgiveness, it's a payment plan. The lawyer explains, you have to pay your current mortgage, plus a portion of the arrears every month for the next 5 years. Let's do the math for this nightmare. Your mortgage is $2,000, you're $20,000 behind, 10 months. The Chapter 13 plan will take that $20K, divide it by 60 months, $333, and add the court's administration fee, 10%. Your new monthly payment to save the house is $2,400. You look at your bank account. You're single now, sole income. Paying alimony or receiving less than you needed. Can you afford to pay $2,400 every month without fail for 5 years? If you fail once, the automatic stay kicks in and the bank takes the house in 30 days. It's a tightrope walk over a pit of alligators. And here comes the surprise element, the saboteur ex-spouse. Remember, his name is also on the mortgage. For the Chapter 13 plan to work perfectly and protect the house, ideally both of you should sign. But you hate each other. You can't even agree on who gets the coffee maker. Imagine agreeing on a 5-year federal debt restructuring plan. Your ex-spouse finds out you filed for bankruptcy. Their lawyer panics. This will ruin their credit too, they yell. The ex-spouse may try to file a motion in court to force the sale of the house, claiming that your bankruptcy plan is unviable and is only draining the value of the property. Equity. Now you have a war on 3 fronts against the bank, which wants to lift the suspension and auction off the house, against the trustee, judicial administrator, a federal government employee whose sole job is to examine your finances with a magnifying glass and tell you if you spend too much on food or Netflix, against the ex-spouse who may be hoping you default on payments so they can finally get rid of the debt, even if it means losing the house. There's a term lawyers use in whispers, bad faith filing. If the judge realizes you filed for bankruptcy just to delay the auction, without any real intention or ability to pay, they will not only cancel your protection, but may also prohibit you from filing for bankruptcy again for 180 days. This leaves you naked in the middle of the gunfire, and the bank knows it. The bank's lawyers are sharks. They file a motion for relief from stay. Basically, they tell the federal judge, "Your Honor, this debtor has no money. This divorce is a mess. Let us seize the house quickly and end this misery." You receive the summons to appear at the hearing. It's not the comfortable divorce room. It's a cold room full of desperate people. You see the bank's lawyer on the other side. Expensive suit, leather briefcase, confident smile. He looks at you as if you were an insect. Comment below, justice, if you think banks have too much power over our lives, or contract, if you think a contract is a contract and should be fulfilled. This is the eternal controversy. I want to see which side you're on. The comment section is going to be on fire today. The hearing begins. The judge looks at your papers. He sees your income. He sees the alimony you receive. He sees the debt. And he asks the fatal question, where is the other co-debtor? Where is your ex-spouse? You stammer. We don't speak, Your Honor. The judge sighs. The bank's lawyer smiles. The fate of your home is about to be decided not by the one with moral reason, but by the one with the most convincing Excel spreadsheet. What you may not know, and what your bankruptcy lawyer may have forgotten to check, is that there's a hidden value in your home that could be your salvation or your total downfall. It's called homestead exemption. Depending on the state where you live, Texas, Florida, California, the law may protect $500,000 of your home's value, or it may protect zero. If you live in the wrong state, by filing for bankruptcy, you may have just handed your house over on a silver platter to the bankruptcy trustee to sell in order to pay off your credit cards. Yes, you heard right. You filed for bankruptcy to save your house, but you may have just authorized the government to sell it to pay off Visa and MasterCard. It's the ultimate irony. Are you sweating bullets right now? You should be, because the trap has closed. And in the next chapter, we'll find out what happens when the bank wins the motion, the auction is rescheduled for the next day, and you're left with only one final, desperate, and morally questionable gamble involving an angel investor, who may actually be a devil in disguise. The moment a federal judge denies your bankruptcy protection or lifts the stay, something invisible and terrifying happens in the digital world. Your name, your address, and your despair are added to a list. Not just any public list. It's the so-called vulture list. Within hours, your misfortune data is sold by data brokers to aggressive real estate investors, contract wholesalers, and scammers of all kinds. Your phone, which used to ring only with bank collection calls, now rings every 15 minutes with unknown numbers. People with friendly, almost pastoral voices say, "Hello, I see you're going through a difficult time. I want to help you. I'll buy your house for cash, as is, and close the deal in 7 days." They seem like savior angels. They offer a quick way out of the pain. They say the magic phrase, "You can get out of this debt-free and with some money in your pocket." But be warned. What you are about to hear is the anatomy of the most brutal scam targeting divorced people in crisis. These investors know everything. They know your mortgage balance. They know you have an ex-spouse. They know you don't speak to each other. And their strategy is the classic military tactic of divide and conquer. The investor calls your ex-husband or ex-wife. He says, "Look, the house is going to auction next week. If it goes to auction, you'll both end up with nothing and a $50,000 debt. But if you sign with me today, I'll give you each $5,000 and take on the headache." For your ex, who's already moved out and has no emotional attachment whatsoever to the walls you painted, $5,000 seems like a gift from heaven. He agrees immediately. He calls or texts you for the first time in months, not to ask how you are, but to pressure you. "Sign the sale to this guy already. It's our only chance. You're crazy to let it go to auction." Suddenly, you're the villain. You, who are fighting to save your family home, become the stubborn one, preventing your ex from making easy money. The psychological pressure is overwhelming. But here's the mathematical trap they're hiding. Let's say your house is worth $400,000 on the real market. Your debt is $300,000. You have $100,000 of equity. That's your money. It's your life savings that's within those walls. When the angel investor offers to pay off the debt and give you $5,000, he's actually stealing $95,000 from your pocket. He's buying a $100 bill for $5. And he uses your fear of the auction and your ex-spouse's greed to get you to sign. If you've ever received one of those calls or letters from We Buy Houses Cash, comment below, "Vultures." I want to know how many of you have been harassed by these predators while simply trying to survive. And if you think this industry should be more regulated, leave a like right now. Let's make some noise, but it gets worse, much worse. There's a type of help called a subject to deal. Pay close attention because this is technically legal, but morally devastating. The investor proposes, "I'll pay your overdue mortgage payments and continue paying future installments. You transfer the deed to my name, move out of the house, and you're free." Sounds perfect, right? Wrong. In a subject-to contract, the deed changes names, goes to the investor, but the mortgage remains in your name and your ex's. The investor promises to pay, but what if they don't pay? The bank comes after whom? You. Imagine this scenario. You move out of your house. The investor puts a tenant there. The investor collects the tenant's rent and doesn't pay the mortgage. They pocket the money for 6 months, 1 year. The bank initiates foreclosure proceedings against you again. But now, you don't even own the house anymore. You can't sell. You can't evict the tenant. You can't do anything. You have 100% of the debt and 0% ownership. You've become a financial beast for a stranger. And your ex-spouse? They signed along with you, and now they're blaming you for accepting the deal they pressured you into making. The tension inside the house is palpable. You look at the half-packed boxes. Uncertainty gnaws at your soul. You start selling furniture on Facebook Marketplace for peanuts just to have money for food, because every penny of your income is being saved for an emergency. The house begins to feel empty, echoing. The place where you were happy has become a mausoleum. And then the ultimatum arrives. The bank sets the final date. The sheriff's sale. There are no more appeals. There's no more bankruptcy to file for. The lawyer stopped responding. The investor stopped calling because they realized they don't have enough profit margin. Silence returns. But now it's the silence of the end. You have 48 hours. You need to decide what to take and what to leave behind. How do you choose what fits in the car? The family photos? The children's crib? The tools from the garage? You realize you're not just losing real estate. You're losing your identity. Society judges you. If you lost your house, it's because you were irresponsible. Nobody sees the toxic divorce. Nobody sees the illness. Nobody sees the unemployment. They only see the foreclosure sign in the yard. In this moment of total darkness, a final intrigue arises between you and your ex. One last petty battle. You need to sign a document to allow the bank to enter peacefully and prevent the sheriff from coming in with guns drawn for a forced eviction. Cash for keys from the bank. The bank offers you $2,000 to leave clean. Clean sweep. But your ex says, "I won't sign unless you give me my share and your share. I want the whole $2,000. He knows you're desperate to avoid having the police at your door in front of the neighbors. He's blackmailing you with your own dignity. You're exhausted. Your eyes are red from crying or from so much anger. You look at your phone. Your ex is sending hateful messages. The bank is sending automated messages. What do? Do you give in to your ex's final blackmail to get a dignified exit? Or do you let the sheriff come, let them break down the door, just to deny your ex-spouse the taste of victory? It's the ultimate conflict. Pride versus peace. Many of you who watch finance channels only think about numbers. ROI, interest, dividends. But the true cost of the foreclosure nightmare isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in trauma. It's measured in marriages that could have ended amicably but turned into nuclear wars because of a signature on a 30-year mortgage. We are nearing the end of this tragic journey. In the next and final part, we will look at the day after. What happens to your credit? Can you rent an apartment with a foreclosure on the record? How long does it take before you can buy a house again? And most importantly, how might the government come after you years later, demanding taxes on the house you lost, deficiency judgment and debt forgiveness tax? Yes, the nightmare can have an unexpected post-credit aspect. If you've stuck with me this far, you're a warrior. This series isn't for the faint of heart. Comment until the end if you're going to watch the conclusion of this story in part 5. I want to see who the elite squad of this channel really is. The sun rises on the morning of the execution, indifferent to your tragedy. You haven't slept. At 8 a.m. sharp, it's not the subtle sound of a letter slipping under the door. It's an authoritative knock. Heavy, definitive. When you open it, it's not a mailman nor a broker. It's an officer from the sheriff's office. He's not smiling. He doesn't want to negotiate. He has a gun in his holster and a court order in his hand. You have 10 minutes to collect your personal belongings and vacate the premises. 10 minutes. How do you summarize 10, 15, 20 years of life in 10 minutes? You grab the box of documents, the laptop, maybe a change of clothes. You look back one last time. The kitchen where you prepared thousands of breakfasts. The line on the wall that measured your children's height. All of that now belongs to the bank. It belongs to a corporate asset spreadsheet. The officer escorts you to the sidewalk. A locksmith who was waiting in the car behind the police vehicle walks quickly to the door. You hear the sound of the drill. He's changing the lock's combination. That metallic sound, zzz, clack, is the final sound of your divorce and your financial ruin. The key in your pocket, which for years represented home, is now just a useless piece of metal. You get into your car. The back seat is full of trash bags with clothes hastily thrown in. You glance to the side. The passenger seat is empty. Your ex-spouse isn't there to share the shame. You're alone. The neighbor across the street, the one who always envied your lawn, is at the window, watching everything with morbid curiosity. Now begins the phase that nobody tells you about in the How to Invest in Real Estate videos. The phase of housing destitution begins. You need a roof over your head tonight. You go to a cheap hotel for a few days, burning through your last savings. You think, I'll rent a small apartment, start over. You find a place. It's half the size of your old house, but the rent is the same as your old mortgage. You fill out the application. The landlord smiles, takes your $50 application fee. The next day the phone rings. The tone of voice has changed. Sir, madam, your application has been denied. Why? You ask, indignant. Credit risk, recent foreclosure, eviction order. You discover the hard way that you're a financial leper. In the American system, having a foreclosure on your record is worse than having a criminal record for many renters. They think, if he didn't pay the bank, he won't pay the rent. You're forced to live in dangerous neighborhoods, in apartment complexes that don't do credit checks, paying exorbitant fees because you have no choice. But the bank isn't finished with you yet. Remember that house that was worth $400,000 but sold at auction yesterday for only $250,000 because the market was bad and nobody bid? The bank took a $50,000 loss on your $300,000 debt. You think, well, they got the house, we're even. Wrong. Depending on the state where you live, states with recourse loan, the bank can file a new lawsuit against you called a deficiency judgment. They sue you for the missing $50,000, and they win. Now, in addition to not having a house, you have your wages garnished. 25% of your paycheck is deducted before it even hits your account. And then comes the final blow, the one that arrives silently in the mail, months later, when you think the dust has settled. It usually arrives in January of the following year. An envelope from the bank, but with a logo that makes any American tremble. IRS, Internal Revenue Service. Inside, there's a simple form. Form 1099-C, Cancellation of Debt. What is this? If the bank forgave your remaining debt, or if you made a short sale, the American government considers this forgiveness as taxable income. If the bank forgave $50,000 of debt, the IRS says, congratulations, you earned $50,000 this year. Now you owe me $15,000 in taxes on this phantom income. You face the consequences. You lost your house, you lost your credit, you lost your marriage, you're renting a horrible place. And now the federal government says you owe $15,000 in taxes on money you've never seen. This is when many people break down. It's the moment when the injustice of the system seems unbearable. It's rock bottom emotionally. Comment here now. Rigged system. If you think taxing those who lost their homes is a moral crime, or law is law, if you think rules are rules, I need to know if I'm the only one outraged by this. This comment section needs to turn into a protest. And your ex-spouse, the one who caused the initial problem, he received the same 1099-C form. The liability is joint and several, remember? You both went down together. The divorce separated the bodies, but the debt united the misfortunes. It was a mutually assured destruction. His revenge cost him his own financial life. Nobody won. Only the bank, which had already resold the house for $350,000 the following week, and the lawyers, who were paid first. But there is a way back. The road is long, dark, and full of rocks, but it exists. Its name is the seasoning period. A foreclosure stays on your credit report for 7 years. It's a scarlet stain, but time heals. Years 1 and 2, you live only with cash. Secured, prepaid credit cards to try and rebuild crumbs of trust. Year 3, if it was a foreclosure by the FHA, you can, perhaps, try to buy a small house again with high interest rates. Years 4 to 7, if it was a conventional mortgage, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, you're in the punishment box for 7 whole years. No major bank will lend you a penny for housing. You learn the hardest lesson of all. The bank contract is stronger than the marriage contract. You learn that you should never ever leave a house leaving your name on the mortgage, no matter how nice your ex seems, no matter what the family court judge says. If your name isn't removed from the debt, you don't leave the house, period. You learn that protecting your assets depends on cold, hard math, not emotional hope. This story of Mike, which we began in part 1, is not fiction. It's the reality for thousands of subscribers to this channel. It's the story of people who believed that everything will be all right and were run over by a corporate freight train. I told this story in 5 parts not to depress you, but to arm you. If you're going through a divorce now, or if you know someone who is, you have a moral obligation to be the annoying person who warns them. Be the friend who says, sell the house now, don't wait. Don't refinance later. Sell, pay off the debt, divide what's left and walk free. It's better to live in a rented apartment with a clean record and peace of mind than in a mansion that's about to become a foreclosure nightmare. We've unraveled the matrix of the foreclosure versus divorce system. We've exposed the lawyers, the banks, the IRS, and the real estate vultures. Now the ball is in your court. If this series has opened your eyes in a way that no other finance channel has, I have one final request. It's not just a like, although that helps a lot. I want you to become a member of our Financial Realists community. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, because in the next video, we're going to investigate another silent nightmare, medical bankruptcy. How a simple trip to the hospital in the US can cost you your entire retirement. You think you're insured? Wait until you see the fine print. Thank you for watching until the end. You are part of the 1% who seek the truth. Keep your credit high, your debts low, and your contracts clear. Until next time, goodbye.